Welcome once again to the Icons. I'm the sports professor, Rick Horrow. Every month we do interviews from the boardroom to the field, covering the world that comprises the $1.2 trillion business of sports. This month we're talking tennis with the chief executive of professional tennis at the USTA, Stacey Allaster. Let's begin by going inside the Icon. Stacey Allaster was born and raised in Ontario, Canada, and started playing tennis at age 12. She earned money by cleaning the clay courts at a local tennis club and teaching lessons to both kids and adults. She received a Bachelor of Arts in Economics and Physical Education from Western Ontario and earned her MBA at Richard Ivey School of Business. During her entire career, Allaster has been a pioneer for women executives in tennis. During 14 years at Tennis Canada, Allaster was the only female tournament director in the ATP Masters Series. As chairman and CEO of the Women's Tennis Association, she generated $1 billion in revenue and secured equal prize money for female players at the French Open and Wimbledon. She began her role at the USTA in 2016, where she set strategy for all major global tournaments. In 2020, she also became the first female tournament director of the US Open. Allaster also has oversight of the US Davis Cup and Federation Cup teams. My question at the beginning of this, and of course I congratulated you off camera for winning the Order of Canada, which I guess is the highest civilian honor that Canada can give to one of its own. And that was last summer, so congratulations.
Thank you.
And I know I have to call you Your Honor, but I'm going to dispense of that for the rest of the interview, if that's okay.
That's all right.
So, yeah. So when you got your MBA at Western Ontario and you were going through the educational component of your life, did you ever contemplate that you were going to basically put your stamp on tennis generally and women's tennis specifically?
Not while I was doing my Ivy MBA. I'd been working for 12 years. I was vice president of sales and marketing for Tennis Canada, and I'd stayed in that vertical. I got some great advice when I entered the industry. If you know how to sell, you'll have a competitive advantage, and that really held me in good stead. When I did my MBA, we did a career management, and I thought I was going to take one of three paths. I'd put my hand up to be the president of Tennis Canada, or I would stay in Canada and enter into somewhere in the sport and entertainment industry, or three, I'd go international. And I had two opportunities. One to work for Octagon. Phil DiPicciotto chased me for many years. And Larry Scott asked me to come down and join him in Florida. So it was just this like incremental piece. It never was a roadmap. It was always though pushing for the next achievement, the next growth in my portfolio.
Couldn't have better chasers than Phil or Larry.
I know.
I can assure you that.
That was fun.
And I'm sure that you learned a lot, as they did from you as well. The years as the WTA CEO, 6-7 years, I guess, succeeding Larry Scott. Was it turbulent? Was it what you expected? I know that tennis has gone through remarkable governance changes and issues in the last few years. What's your perspective on that?
I had good exposure to the WTA. I was on the board in the early part of 2000, so I knew the organization well. Larry left the organization with a great financial footing. We had Sony Ericsson. I had to renew Sony Ericsson. No one thought that would happen, and we did get around. Our championships went to the next level, and we did a massive deal with Singapore, and that really created an anchor for Asia Pacific. And the business grew. And then, of course, we did the $500 million media deal, which was transformative for women's tennis. 2,000 matches, every single match on the WTA was going to be broadcasted, and that's one of the challenges of women's sports. I didn't have a linear platform to keep that consistent annual exposure. So all of the business went really well, where, the turbulent times really were geopolitical issues. And, that's what kept me up at night, from terrorist attack with the horrible tsunami in Japan, and that had a flow-on effect on the athletes in our events in that region and even in Indian Wells. Um, Natural disasters. We're doing the championships in Istanbul, and there was a massive earthquake. Those were the turbulent times. But on the business side, I was well prepared for the opportunity to sell women's tennis.
Well, and I guess you could argue that the preparation to be the first female CEO of professional tennis in 2016, it was everything that came before, and it wasn't a job interview, but in essence, everything you had done the previous 20 years was a large body of work job interview.
Absolutely. I was a well-known entity within the USTA. During my Tennis Canada days, we worked closely with the USTA, particularly when we launched the US Open Series in 2005. And then I worked very closely again during my 10 years with the WTA. And I knew Gordon Smith really well. And when I left the WTA, Gordon called about a month later and he goes, "Hey, just want to check in, see how you're doing. Next time you're in New York, let's get together. I don't want to talk to you about a job or anything. I just want to get your views on pro tennis." So naive me, I didn't think he wanted to talk to me about a job, but indeed he did. We're up over 30% from that 2019 number, and COVID wasn't just a blip. So we're very, very focused on continuing that. One of our challenges, we need more courts. There's too much demand.
US Open, amazing perspective stat that when you look at economic impact of Super Bowls and Final Fours and all of that, that's great, gets a lot of visibility. But I don't think people understand in this world we live in that you sell out every day and you have 2 weeks full of activity where people are coming in from out of town. They're staying in New York. They're spending a lot of money. And when you add it up, the numbers people glaze over. But it's a compelling story.
Yeah, I don't have the current economic impact, but it's got to be in front of it without question. And I think the other piece that Rick, that people don't understand, we're actually a 3-week event. We do have that main draw event for 2 weeks, but we have Fan Week the week before, which has a qualifying tournament with 128 men and 128 women. The exact same number that's in the main draw played over 2 weeks. We play that in 4 days, and we're really creating Fan Week as this accessible festival for everyone to come, and it's free. What professional event in the world do you know that you can go and watch Carlos Alcaraz, Francis Tiafoe, Iga Swiatek, Coco Gauff practice alongside of those that are grinding it out to make the main draw? So you put 3 weeks of energy and thousands of people to work. We have over 7,000 people working at the U.S. Open between our vendors and ourselves. It's a machine.
Well, it's a money-making machine, but the important thing that you emphasized earlier is not only the money that's made, but how it's allocated. I looked at the numbers pre-COVID, the document that you all did, and it's important pre-COVID because you've rebounded, you survived and then rebounded, but the numbers 5 years ago were 30,000 tennis courts built, about 650,000 USTA members, 600 colleges and universities participate in tennis on campus, 300 national championship tournaments. I'm not going to quibble with the numbers because I'm sure they're up. But the point is, even after COVID, these are all important priorities for you all. And that's what you do, whether people realize it or not.
That is the priority. The USTA, again, its mission is to promote and grow the game. And COVID gave us a natural growth spurt. It's a very safe sport, just by design, right? And people could play, and that created renewed energy for Americans. We're up over 30% from that 2019 number, and COVID wasn't just a blip. So we're very, very focused on continuing that. One of our challenges, we need more courts. There's too much demand. for the amount of courts we have across the country, so infrastructure, and we need more providers. We need more coaches. So these are good problems to have, and one that we're very, very focused on working with our sections so that we can meet that demand and continue to grow. The next generation always stands on the shoulders of the previous generation, and somehow they take the sport to the next level.
So let's talk about some of the issues relative to tennis itself in a general way. New media. I mean, you were as you said, the queen of the 2,000 annually televised matches and international television distribution deals. How hard is it, other than 24/7 tennis channel kind of thing, but how hard is it to plot tennis rights negotiations with uncertain endings? The match can last an hour and a half, can last 5 hours. What's the solution to that? Is there one, or does it matter?
Look, I think it does matter, and I think it matters what our fans want, what our consumers want, and it matters what our broadcast partners want. I think today there continues to be a strong demand based on ratings and based on deals that are getting done in the marketplace for tennis scoring to be best of 3 for the women and best of 5 for the men. I think, and with all now the streaming channels and the digital platforms, we no longer have these linear windows that we need to be totally jammed into. We could be going long on a match, and ESPN 2 can flip over to ESPN Plus if they need to leave us. So that part's working out, and we're starting this discussion. Our rights with ESPN conclude at the end of 2025, and mapping that out. We've got a great relationship with them. We're hopeful that we'll continue to be with ESPN. They are the worldwide leader in sports. They've been terrific.
Well, good answer.
But we know that Burke wants to. He's got to get more growth for ESPN Plus. We have 950 matches at the U.S. Open over those 3 weeks. We got a lot of content. And lastly, maybe 10 years, 15 years from now, maybe there will be a discussion for a shorter form of match. But again, your point about digital, we can just take that 2-3 hour match and chunk it down into a 5-minute highlight. And that may well serve, the Gen Z and the customer who wants it short form.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you about that new media idiosyncrasy that our friends in football want, 3-minute quick games you can fast forward on. Our buddy who runs the National Hockey League, we had the conversation about how the 4 overtime playoff game doesn't fit in the window, but it does if you if you condense it. So I guess everybody learns from every other set of best practices, and you've got to stay ahead of new media because today's new media is outdated unless you stay a step ahead.
Absolutely, and we've crossed that trajectory that consumers are getting their news on digital platforms. It's finding that right balance. I think we're very fortunate again with ESPN. We've got ESPN 1, ESPN 2. Occasionally we're on ABC. And then every court, 14 courts, 950 matches, from the juniors to the wheelies to the dubs, everybody gets exposure. And that's, fantastic for our athletes and fantastic for our partners and, of course, fantastic for our fans.
Speaking of the dubs in another context, will female, of course the answer is yes, but will female tennis survive the Williams, one retirement, one soon? And what's next? The 5 or 6 next superstars pick up the slack, or will it be people we don't even know yet? What's your take on all that?
It's both.
Okay.
And look, I say this, and I sincerely mean it. And the 2021 and the 2022 U.S. Opens proved it. The next generation always stands on the shoulders of the previous generation, and somehow they take the sport to the next level. Sometimes it takes a couple of years for a transition. I've been around a long time now, so I've been through the no Pete, no Andre, no Stephanie,
Yeah.
no Martina, no Chrissy, and the sport continued to grow. So I have a lot of confidence in our athletes. They demonstrated great ball in 2021. Look at Emma Raducanu and Leila Fernandez, that dream women's final. Carlos Alcaraz, Sinner, Berrettini, Tiafo. The guys haven't missed a beat, not having Roger with this. And, Serena now has evolved, and terrific that she will have her second
Yeah.
child.
Yeah.
And Iga Swiatek and Sabalenka, they're the dominant ones right now. Rabakina, who won Wimbledon last year, they seem to have a good hold on the reins. And there's a whole host that are gunning for them all the time. So, and I don't want to put too much pressure on our Coco Gauff. She's still only 19, and I don't think there are many sports properties that can stand up and say they have the depth of the bench that we do in females.
Everybody understood and understands how difficult it's been for, in many ways, for the men, the women, the majors, all of the governing bodies to coexist. It's probably better today than it has been before. You are known as a consensus builder and a peacemaker. Where is all that today?
I can tell you, in my 30 plus year career in tennis, I've never seen the collaboration between the 4 Grand Slams and with the ATP and the WTA. So I think we've been talking for the last couple of years how we can work together to build a long-term sustainable business model. There's some give and take on all of that. And, having sat at the WTA and now sitting in these meetings with the tours, you could not have more 180 degree difference. It was like I was a schoolgirl being called in to the Grand Slam board, giving a report on the WTA, and they would say, "Thank you very much. We're now going to lunch."
Right.
So, I think it's a whole different generation of leader. New leaders at Wimbledon, a female CEO. Can you believe it? At Wimbledon,
Yeah.
who's
Right.
incredibly
Yeah.
talented. Female CEO at Roland Garros at the FFT. Craig Tiley at Tennis Australia, who is he's the best in the business. He really runs a good show and a good organization. And now we have Lou and Brian Hayline, who's our chair, volunteer chair.
Yeah.
And we're all in this sort of we've got to stay focused on building our sport together and stop worrying about the infighting. Let's worry about how we grow the business together.
You mentioned in your acceptance, I guess, as the Open first female director, that one of the roles or goals would be to, quote, inspire women to take on leadership roles in the male-dominated world of tennis. That's an interesting comment. Would you use the same words today as you would have used then? Is it male-dominated?
It's still male-dominated. I think on the WTA Tournament Council, I think there's one female out of 15. At the Grand Slams, it's an entirely changed mosaic where I would be the only one. So again, we'll go back to Wimbledon. Female CEO, soon to be female chair with Debbie Jevons, who will take over after this championships. And you've got a female tournament director, Amelie Mauresmo at Roland Garros, and a female CEO. So that's very different. And Rick, one of the things I'm really proud, and I don't think people know this, we've got to do a better job at promoting our US Open leadership team. Our Chief Commercial Officer, Kirsten Corio, Head of Broadcast, Patty Fallick, Head of Marketing, Nicole Kankam, Head of US Open Juniors and Wheelchair, Megan Rose, our Chief Medical Officer, Alexis Colvin, Andrea Hurst, our Chief Operating Officer, Belinda Berman, who is one of our lawyers, Rachel Booth. We've got an all-star US Open led business team. And I don't think there are many sports properties that can stand up and say they have the depth of the bench that we do in females. We're at 23.6 million right now. Our strategic plan, we want to get to about 35 million in the next 5 years.
Final question for you: where is the business of tennis in, let's say, 5 or 10 years?
Well, if we just continue to have this, I'll use my Canadian roots, hockey stick growth at the US Open and the 30% increase in participation, I think we're just going to, we're at 23.6 million right now. Our strategic plan, we want to get to about 35 million in the next 5 years. I'm incredibly optimistic. It is, it's a low-cost sport, and it's fun. And again, we go back to the competitive advantage for your health about being able to live an extra 9.7 years. So we're going to lean in hard to the health and fitness that tennis provides and the accessibility. And I've been fortunate to everything in my professional careers come from the sport of tennis. And I just want to see as many Americans as possible enjoying this great game.
All right, I lied. Last question. Where's Stacey Allaster in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, I hope to be retired. I will be retired.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.